How did this grandpa get such a hot wife? The college kid's mocking laughter echoed through Romano's restaurant in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. I was cutting into my steak when the comment hit our table like a slap. My name is Boris Hoffman. I'm 52 years old, and I've learned that people make assumptions about older men with beautiful younger wives. Usually I ignore the stares and whispered comments. But that Friday night at Romano's, something was different about these college kids. Natasha, my wife of 3 years, looked stunning in her black dress. At 37, she turns heads wherever we go. What I hadn't expected was the deliberate cruelty from the Arizona State University students in the corner booth. Tyler Brooks, the ringleader, had been making progressively louder comments since we'd arrived. His friends, Jake White and Chad Williams, encouraged him with snickers and elbow jabs. "Maybe he's her sugar daddy," Jake whispered, not quite quietly enough. "Old dude's probably loaded." Natasha squeezed my hand under the table. I continued eating, maintaining the calm demeanor that had served me well in business for 25 years. The young men had clearly been drinking before arriving. Their voices grew louder with each round of craft beer they ordered. Tyler kept glancing over at Natasha, building confidence with alcohol and peer encouragement. "I bet she's just waiting for him to croak so she can inherit everything," Chad added, thinking he was being original. Their commentary escalated as the evening progressed. What started as whispers became bold declarations about age gap relationships, gold diggers, and desperate old men. Miguel Santos, our regular waiter, noticed the tension building. He'd served us monthly for 2 years and understood our preference for quiet evenings. "Should I speak to Antonio?" Miguel asked quietly, referring to the restaurant manager. I shook my head. "Not yet. Let's see how this plays out." 20 minutes into their performance, Tyler finally worked up courage for direct confrontation. He stood up, swaying slightly, and approached our table with his friends flanking him. "Excuse me, sir," Tyler began with exaggerated politeness, "but my friends and I were wondering something." I set down my fork and looked up calmly. "Yes? How does a guy your age end up with someone so—" He gestured at Natasha with obvious appreciation. "Out of your league." The restaurant grew quieter as other diners noticed the confrontation developing. Natasha remained composed, though I could see the irritation in her eyes. "I suppose I got lucky," I replied evenly. Tyler grinned at his friends, emboldened by what he interpreted as weakness. "Come on, man. Be honest. What's your secret? Money? Fake ID that makes you younger?" "Maybe he's not as old as he looks," Jake suggested. "Could be one of those guys who ages terribly." I took a sip of wine, studying these young men who thought they understood how the world worked. Their confidence amused me more than it angered me. "You seem very interested in our relationship," I observed. "Just curious," Tyler shrugged. "I mean, no offense, but you're like, what, 60? And she's obviously way younger and way hotter. The math doesn't add up." If this confrontation is getting your attention, hit subscribe, because these college boys had no idea what they'd walked into. "The math," I repeated thoughtfully. "Interesting perspective." Chad leaned forward, joining the interrogation. "Yeah, like, what do you two even talk about? Do you remember the same decades?" Their laughter drew more attention from surrounding tables. Other diners watched with the fascination people show for impending train wrecks. Natasha finally spoke, her voice carrying a slight accent that made her even more striking. "Perhaps we should let these gentlemen return to their table." "See? She even sounds classy," Tyler said to his friends. "Wasted on Grandpa here." That's when Antonio Ricci appeared beside our table. The restaurant manager had been watching from across the room, and his patience with the disruption had reached its limit. "Gentlemen," Antonio addressed the college students, "I need you to return to your seats." "We're just having a conversation," Tyler protested. "Free country, right?" Antonio's expression remained professional but firm. "You're disturbing other guests. Please sit down." The young men reluctantly returned to their booth, but their commentary continued at barely lower volume. They'd tasted confrontation and wanted more. "Old dude probably can't even satisfy her," Jake commented loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "Bet she's already looking for someone younger," Chad added. I continued eating methodically, each bite deliberate and unhurried. Natasha watched me carefully, recognizing the signs that meant I was processing the situation strategically. "Boris," she said quietly, "we could leave." "Not yet," I replied. "I'm enjoying my dinner." 5 minutes later, Tyler made his final mistake. He stood up again, this time walking directly to Natasha's side of the table, bypassing me entirely. "Listen, sweetheart," he said, placing his hand on the back of her chair. "When you get tired of playing nurse to geriatric cases, give me a call." He dropped a business card on the table next to her wine glass. I reached across and picked up the card, reading it with interest. "Tyler Brooks, marketing intern, Sunset Media Group." "That's right," Tyler said proudly. "I've got connections in advertising. Could help a beautiful woman like you get into modeling or acting." I turned the card over in my fingers, noting the cheap cardstock and basic design. "Sunset Media Group, I'm familiar with them." "Yeah? Well, when you're ready to date someone who still has all his teeth, I'll show you what real success looks like." The restaurant had gone completely quiet now. Even the kitchen staff seemed to have paused their activities to watch this confrontation unfold. I stood up slowly, my full height causing Tyler to step back slightly. At 6'2", I still commanded physical presence despite the gray in my hair. "Tyler," I said, looking at his business card again, "there's something you should know about Sunset Media Group." His confident smirk faltered slightly. "What's that?" "I own it." The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Tyler's face went through several color changes as the implications sank in. His friends, still seated in their booth, stopped laughing abruptly. "You... what?" Tyler stammered. "Sunset Media Group. I purchased it 18 months ago as part of my advertising portfolio, which means technically you work for me." The silence in the restaurant was so complete you could hear the ice machine cycling in the kitchen. Jake White broke the quiet with a whispered, "Ooh, shit." I continued reading Tyler's business card with academic interest. "Marketing intern. That would put you under Jennifer Walsh's supervision in the Phoenix office. Nice woman, very concerned about professional conduct and company image." Tyler's confidence had evaporated entirely. "Sir, we were just what exactly?" I asked, my voice remaining conversational. "Just harassing customers at restaurants? Just making inappropriate comments about women? Just representing my company while intoxicated in public?" Chad and Jake had begun gathering their things, clearly wanting to disappear before this situation got worse. "Please," Tyler said, his voice cracking slightly. "I didn't know." "That's correct, you didn't know. You made assumptions based on appearances, and those assumptions were wrong." Antonio appeared beside us again, this time flanked by Vincent Romano, the restaurant's owner. Vincent and I had known each other for 15 years, long before either of us had achieved significant success. "Boris," Vincent said warmly, embracing me like the old friend he was, "I heard there was some disturbance." "Nothing serious, Vincent. Just a young man learning about consequences." Vincent looked at Tyler with the expression restaurant owners reserve for problem customers. "I think perhaps these gentlemen are finished with their dinner." "Actually," I said, "Tyler was just leaving anyway. Weren't you, Tyler?" The young man nodded frantically, backing away from our table like I was contagious. "And Tyler," I called after him, "plan to be in Jennifer Walsh's office first thing Monday morning. We need to discuss your understanding of professional conduct." He practically ran from the restaurant, his friends scrambling to keep up with his hasty exit. The dining room slowly returned to normal conversation levels as the excitement passed. Several patrons nodded approvingly in our direction, and I heard one elderly gentleman tell his wife, "Sometimes justice comes when you least expect it." Natasha smiled at me across the table, the first genuine smile she'd shown all evening. "That was beautifully handled." "Experience," I replied, sitting back down to finish my now cold steak. "Patience and preparation usually trump youthful arrogance." Miguel approached cautiously with fresh plates. "Mr. Hoffman, would you like me to reheat your dinners?" "That would be perfect, Miguel. Thank you." As we waited for our replacement meals, Natasha asked, "Did you really not know he worked for one of your companies?" "I suspected when I saw the business card design. We use a specific template for all intern materials, but I wasn't certain until I saw his reaction." "And now?" "Now Tyler learns that actions have consequences, and perhaps his friends learn to choose better influences." The rest of our dinner passed peacefully. Vincent stopped by our table twice to ensure we were satisfied, and other diners occasionally glanced over with looks that ranged from curious to admiring. As we prepared to leave, Antonio approached with our check, which had been mysteriously reduced to 0. "Vincent's treat," he explained, his way of apologizing for the disturbance. I left a generous tip for Miguel anyway, knowing that restaurant staff remember customers who treat them well during difficult situations. Walking to our car, Natasha took my arm and asked, "What do you think will happen to Tyler?" "He'll face a disciplinary review. Depending on his attitude and willingness to learn from this experience, he might keep his internship. People deserve chances to grow from their mistakes." "Even after what he said?" "Especially because of what he said. He's young, drunk, and stupid. Those are correctable conditions." The following Monday morning, I received a call from Jennifer Walsh at Sunset Media Group. Tyler had appeared in her office as instructed, with a written apology and a request for guidance. Jennifer recommended training rather than termination. I agreed, with the condition that Tyler complete sensitivity training and volunteer work with senior citizen organizations. 3 weeks later, I received a handwritten letter from Tyler. The tone was entirely different from the arrogant young man I'd encountered at Romano's. He thanked me for the second chance, acknowledged how poorly he'd behaved, and outlined steps he was taking to become more respectful and professional. The letter also included an apology to Natasha, recognizing that his comments had been inappropriate and hurtful regardless of his intentions. 6 months after the restaurant incident, Jennifer Walsh reported that Tyler had become one of her most improved interns. His work quality had increased dramatically, and his attitude toward colleagues had transformed completely. The experience taught me something valuable about assumptions people make. Tyler had seen an older man with a younger wife and constructed an entire narrative about our relationship, without considering consequences. Natasha and I still dine at Romano's monthly. Vincent always ensures we receive excellent service, and Miguel has become something of a friend over the years. The table where Tyler and his friends sat has been occupied by dozens of other diners since that night, most of whom behave with appropriate restaurant etiquette. Occasionally, we encounter similar situations. Age gap relationships attract attention, and not everyone is discreet about their curiosity or judgment. But most people have enough social awareness to keep their observations private. The few who don't usually learn quickly that appearances can be deceiving, that success comes in many forms, and that respect costs nothing, but delivers significant returns. Tyler Brooks finished his internship successfully and accepted a full-time position with another company. His final evaluation noted significant growth in professional maturity and interpersonal skills. Sometimes the best lessons come from the most uncomfortable moments. Tyler learned that his assumptions about older people and their capabilities were dangerously limited. I learned that patience and measured responses often achieve better results than immediate confrontation. And Natasha learned that her husband's business connections occasionally provide unexpected entertainment during dinner.